Welcome everybody, thank you for coming today. I'm Beth Shadle. I am actually representing Amy Meichner right now. She was held up in another meeting. I am honored to be here on such a special occasion in front of all of you who are interested in learning more about our veterans and also learning more about the military and our presenters' experiences. At this time, I would like any service members or veterans to please stand. We would like to thank you for putting yourselves in harm's way to protect our freedom, and we owe you and the many others that have served past and present for your service to our nation, your valor, and putting yourselves in harm's way. So again, we thank you. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Juan Vasquez. Juan is a veteran United States Marine Corps. He was a veteran in the Iraqi War. He joined Cartus this year, and he is a consultant on the P&G team. He is also a member of our Veterans Advisory Council as well as our Diversity and Inclusion Council. So welcome, Juan.
Thank you everybody for coming to this event. If I can please ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you will please repeat after. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. I'm here to introduce a brother, a fellow veteran, one of the 22 million veterans that currently live in our great nation. This man happens to be Jason Culbreth. Jason was raised nearby in Brookfield, Connecticut. In 1996, he decided to join the Navy. He was assigned to Squadron HM-15 as an aircraft, mine, countermeasures crewman. During this time, Jason deployed to both humanitarian and combat missions in Kosovo, Korea, Persian Gulf, and the Adriatic Sea. On September 11, 2001, on the day of those tragic events in New York City, Jason answered the call that we made to our 1.4 million active service members at the time. He became an explosive ordnance disposal technician, EOD for short. For those who don't know, these are the individuals that put themselves in harm's way to disarm active explosives, bombs, IEDs. And as a result, not only saved the lives of his fellow service members, but of countless innocent civilians. As an EOD technician, he conducted operations in Africa, Oman, Israel, Jordan, and Iraq, and was also deployed to Norway to disarm World War II mines. Dreadfully, Jason was injured during a high-altitude parachuting training operation, and eventually had to retire from the Navy. However, these injuries didn't stop his life of service. He currently serves his community as a firefighter at the headquarters in New Street. And I believe that's one thing that all veterans share, and that's a sense of service to not only ourselves, our families, but to our country, its potential, and its integrity. Jason is here to talk to us about the many issues that veterans are facing and how hard transitioning back to a normal life can be after multiple tours overseas or just years of service to this country. So with that being said, if you can please join me in introducing Jason Culbreth to the stage.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay in the back? I have to go off of my notes here. This is not my comfort zone. Bear with me. Good afternoon. I am a United States Navy veteran, and I am grateful to all of you for your support. I would like to thank Cartus for asking me to talk with you today. I am honored and humbled for this opportunity to speak. I would specifically like to thank Amy Meichner, SVP from HR, Director Ken Ang, Director William Tully, Director Beth Shadle, Senior Nicole Kane, Juan Vasquez, and Tanette Karina. Thank you. All gave some gave all. This is a truth we veterans know above all others, as it remains with us for a lifetime. By being here today and taking time to reflect on the service and sacrifice of veterans, you demonstrate that this is much more than a catchy, patriotic phrase. It illustrates that you understand, whether through your own service or through the service of others, the truth veterans know all too well. No one leaves the military unchanged. For some, there are physical injuries that are drastically changed their life in a blink of an eye. For others, the wounds may be invisible, but the pain is very real. It isn't an easy journey for our brave men and women as they work to overcome the challenges they face as a result of their service. But us veterans have never sought the easy way out. Service before self. 3 words that define every person here today who has worn the uniform of our great nation. Each one of you has sacrificed, and I would like to thank you, from one veteran to another, for that solemn commitment. A grateful nation would like to thank you for your service as well. Also, I would like to thank the rest of you for your support. It is for you that we serve. Courage, devotion, drive, sacrifice, discipline, optimism, mutual help, and loyalty. Together, this is what creates an effective team. Indeed, what makes the United States military effective is not one soldier, one sailor, one Marine, an airman, or a Coast Guardsman. It is the sum of the whole that drives victory. It is knowing that in the darkest hour, the man to your left and the woman to your right each have your back, and you have theirs. The unmatched dedication of veterans for their fellow veterans is why I'm humbled to be called a veteran myself. Throughout the years, warfare has changed. The size and scope of our military has evolved, and the global presence continues to shift. But our commitment to our nation's heroes, heroes of all eras, can never waver. As many of you know, during the transition from service member to civilian, it often feels like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. But there is no reason for the veterans to have to bear this burden alone. That is why we're here today, to confirm our commitment to the promises we made when we asked our fellow citizens to serve. We cannot leave our wounded behind. We recognize what they did for us, and we are thankful. So the question is, how do we show them? Veterans have demonstrated certain essential qualifications of leadership, including self-reliance, optimism, and the definite refusal to admit defeat. We need to utilize these assets and help them with their transitions back into their communities. It is their commitment to teamwork, excellence, and above all, service that allows us to be here today, reflecting upon our freedom. I am honored to salute the men and women who made this ceremony possible, this celebration of the men and women that have volunteered to serve our country. There are some very strong veterans that are not accepted by the community when they return. The veteran who is socially maladjusted needs and deserves the benefits of rehabilitative services, just as much as the man whose life has been reduced by mutilation or amputation. Unless this is recognized and adequate treatment for him and his situation are made available, there is always going to be a grave danger that he becomes a social casualty. Luckily, recent laws have at last faced the problem squarely by placing PTSD on the same level with other handicaps. In providing for the rehabilitation of both veterans and non-veterans. This extension of the concept of disability and realizing that the post-traumatic stress is treatable, this constitutes a very significant advance in our social legislation. The veteran's success or failure in making the transition to civilian life will depend on a number of things. It will depend on how much himself has changed in the military service, what he has gone through, and what it has done to his attitudes and expectations. Whether he has become more self-reliant or more dependent on others for emotional support. It will depend upon how willing he is to compromise and how flexible the social environment into which he steps, and how able and willing it is to accept some of his changes. If too great a gap separates him with the needs and expectations he cannot bring himself to give up from a civilian society with what it offers him, particularly if he cannot succeed learning or reviving the social techniques he must acquire in order to bridge that gap, he will remain socially maladjusted. Every veteran is bound to pass through at least a brief period of social maladjustment before he succeeds in getting the hang of his new mode as a civilian. It is not alone that he has changed. For a while, he has been at war in his own way. Civilian society has been at war in its way. While he has been growing away from what he once was, this country has been growing away from what he wanted it to remain. The unfamiliar man comes back to people and a scene that are now unfamiliar to him. The old life is simply not there to greet him. Disappointment and perplexity are mutually painful. The great majority of veterans and the communities to which they return manage within a relatively short period to adapt to one another reasonably well. A minority of veterans, apparently quite normal upon discharge, do not make the transition without prolonged conflict and unhappiness. It is the socially important minority that we should be concerned. Getting these veterans back on the right path should be our goal. I am United States Navy Petty Officer, First Class, Explosive Ordnance Disposal Technician, retired, and I am honored to be here. I wanted to take this time to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about my journey and how I got back into my community and back into my path of service. I would like to start back when I was 6 years old. I was given a second chance at life. My mother found me laying unconscious in a pool of blood. I was rushed to the hospital after a knife wound went through 2 of my ribs, punctured my lung, and bruised my pericardium. I had a near-death experience, and the prognosis from the surgeons was that I was going to be limited on what I could do when I grew up. The one limit that has stuck with me until last year, the one thing that resonated with me all of these years, and yet sounds so simple, yet meant everything to me, was that I was not going to be able to play hockey, due to the rough nature of the sport and the blunt forces that might be exerted onto me. I played last season for the Danbury Fire Department hockey team. It was at this time that I realized I had overcome my obstacles. I had made it. When I enlisted in the Navy in 1996, at 21 years of age, I wanted to serve our country by helping people, being the savior that gave others a second chance to live. I enlisted as an aircrew rescue swimmer, basically a paramedic that works out of a helicopter, and after a grueling 1.5 years of training, I was attached to my first command. During my many deployments, my insatiable drive to live life to the fullest pushed me and my body to train for special operations. My package was selected, and on September 11th, 2001, I was heading for Panama City, Florida to become a United States Navy Special Operations diver. Another thing that the surgeons at Bridgeport Hospital said that a knife going through my lung and causing a trauma-induced pneumothorax would prohibit me from doing. As the class leader of my dive platoon, and more determined than ever, I continued through one of the biggest challenges of my life. While not being the best student at Brookfield High School, I was on the roster to attend one of the toughest academic programs known in the U.S. military. I was going to school to learn how to defuse weapons of mass destruction and learn every bomb and rocket known throughout the world, and how to render them safe in an environment that is not conducive to life. I would become physically and mentally strong. It was months of intense studying and stress unlike anything I have ever experienced. Here the phrase was coined: initial success or total failure. I learned to live by this saying. This type of training desensitizes you to pressure. It creates a warrior's mind. Your every action becomes meticulous. Your thought processes are usually 5 steps ahead of where you're acting. I was conditioned to accomplish any task in any circumstance. I completed this and a handful of other follow-on trainings, including parachuting and helicopter rope and suspension training. I was attached to an anti-terrorism force protection unit on the East Coast and deployed a few times to some pretty amazing places. Some were hot and sandy, others were cold and wet. I saw combat more than I would have liked to have. I saw my life flash in front of my eyes on many missions. I lost several brothers, but I gained a lot of experience. I had the privilege to be close support for the Commander-in-Chief of our great nation. And after all is said and done, I served with honor, courage, and commitment. On a partly cloudy night in September 2007, I was on a Halo mission when I had a malfunction with my parachute harness and really messed up my neck and back. I came very close to ending my second chance at life. I had to have a fusion of a few vertebrae, and it was recommended to me that I medically retire from the community that I loved, the community that I gave everything for. This transition was by far the toughest thing I have ever done. You know why? Because I had to do it all by myself. All of my teammates were going back out the door, deploying, operating, and here I was laying in bed, having to be bathed, limping around my house, loaded up on pain medicine. It wasn't really a time of healing for me. It was a time of internal destruction. I was at the tip of the spear one day, and now I was worthless. I couldn't even get out of my own way if I had to. The days got longer, and the nights dragged on. My self-worth plummeted. My life was becoming less and less valuable every painful breath. I was controlled by medication. After almost a year of physical recovery and many years of psychological therapy, I have found that the path was still there. As I dug down deep and uncovered the dust, my path was still strong, and the direction was very clear. I moved back to my hometown in 2011, and I went back to college full time. I wanted to get back on that horse. I wanted, again, to take advantage of the second, maybe third, fourth, or fifth chance I was given since I was 6. I felt the need to continue to serve. Now on a local level, I saw satisfaction in myself from volunteering as an EMT and firefighter for the town of Newtown. One call in particular on December 14th, 2012, that motivated me to start the process of applying for a career firefighter position. I applied around the country, and I was blessed by making the cut for a position right here in the city of Danbury. Here's the opportunity I was looking for. A second career in my hometown, near my family and friends. I'd hit the lotto. Shortly after my acceptance into the best job in the world, I graduated from the local university with a bachelor's in management information systems. Life was really getting back on track. It has been 2 years on the job now, and things get better every day. Saving someone is one of the greatest feelings in the world. But you might not be saving a life. People can be saved in many different ways. In emergency medical services, there are so many things you can be when you're a savior of someone else. You can be the calm in the midst of a storm. You are the rational one in irrational circumstances. You are the knowledgeable one when little is known. You are the one who listens to when the rest of the world is deaf. You know what is wrong when others draw a blank. You are the one grieving when no one else seems to care. Or you are willing to be honest when others skirt the truth. These are awesome feelings under amazing circumstances. I continue to live every day to the fullest while enjoying paying it forward. There is a topic that I would like to discuss. Something that has become very near and dear to my heart. It's something that affects every person in this room, and your families, and your friends. Many often ask, what can I do to help? I'm not a veteran. I haven't deployed. I have no mental health training. So what can I do? Suicide is still the 10th leading cause of death in the United States and has only increased in the last 50 years. You may think you don't know someone who is affected, but the truth is you probably do. Mental wounds are invisible, and the struggle with suicide is not always transparent. In the case of all suicides, the first attempt is successful 50% of the time. Half the time it is too late. In 2013, the Veterans Mental Health Accessibility Act, sponsored by Congressman Matt Cartwright of Pennsylvania, was passed. This bipartisan bill aims to increase mental health services and, more importantly, the duration of treatment. But veterans need more than funds and congressional bills. We need your time, your ideas, and your involvement. Many think that writing a check or giving lip service to a veteran's issue is enough. But I implore everyone here to talk about the problem, get involved in the fight, and work side by side with veteran initiatives to ensure successful transitions of our nation's warriors. A tidal wave is coming. We are still a nation at war, and it is important to remember those still serving overseas. As we bring home the last of our soldiers, we must remember that our generation will be judged by the way we take care of our troops coming home. We must embrace them so they can become thriving members of our community. Currently, more than 69% of veteran suicides are among individuals age 50 and over. Knowing that statistic and looking at the spike in the active duty component today, it is evident that that tidal wave is coming. That tidal wave of veteran suicides is coming. In this country, we need a paradigm shift in the way that we think about suicide, treatment, and mental health care. This movement will not happen overnight. And as we move further away from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the support will fade. There's a foundation out there called Stop Soldier Suicide, and there's other ones. If you want to find out more about this, please come talk to me about it, or look on the internet. They're everywhere. The current rate of our military suicides is unacceptable, and I encourage all of you to take action. In the words of Army 2nd Lieutenant Louis Zamperini, World War II veteran and prisoner of war, a part of you still believes you can fight and survive, no matter what your mind knows. It's not so strange. Where there is still life, there is still hope. The will to fight and survive is innate within our nation's warriors, and that hope, that will to live, is what we Americans owe to our brothers and sisters in uniform. The men and women who have volunteered to fight for our freedom. That hope is what I try to provide each and every day. I continue to carry out my mission, and I hope that you continue to support those who have served. Thank you. God bless our troops, and God bless the United States of America.
If anyone has any questions for Jason at the moment, please stand and ask your question. All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming again and for attending this event. And please go out and support a veteran in any way you can, not just in monetary value, but in the human aspect. Please acknowledge their service. Ask them if they're okay. Ask them what you can do to help emotionally, because that's more important than just giving them money. So again, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and pass this to Beth, who's going to conclude our event. Thank you.
On behalf of Cartus, Jason, we would like to present you with this token of our gratitude, not only for your service to our country, but also for your time here presenting to us today. So thank you. I'm glad to have you. I would like everybody to stand for a moment. We are going to play taps now. Thank you. I think next year we'll have tissues on hand. As you all depart today, we do have a table in the back with some cookies and ciders. There's also a jar there if you'd like to make a cash donation to a veterans charity. And we will also be sending out an email with additional links on how you can help support. Thank you for attending today. It was greatly appreciated. Thank you again, Jason.